Hey friends, Deanna here with Homestead and Chill, and happy summer. So as cliche as it sounds, I cannot believe how fast time flies. The last time we did a tour and an update around here was kind of the big reveal of our new garden space. That was in late March. It is now early July, so it's been almost 4 months, and so much has changed in that time. We already had our big round of spring crops kind of come and go. We had tons of peas and lettuce and radishes and cauliflower and broccoli, so many wonderful things. So spring was really productive here in our new garden. We have a lot of exciting things going on in our summer garden right now too that I thought we'd walk around and check out. Maybe we'll harvest a couple things together, and also a few changes in the orchard. We did some remulching, put in some new fruit trees. So yeah, we'll just kind of check things out, come along for the ride.
All right, wave hello to the chickens over there. So speaking of time flying, we just celebrated the 1-year anniversary on July 1st of moving into this place, which is just crazy to think about. So if you happen to be new here, this whole area, the garden that we're walking out into now, was just all dirt and weeds. It was just a big open dirt field. So we had just finished kind of putting all of this in last spring or this spring, and then this kind of center garden area and most of the orchard was existing, but we have made some changes there as well. So coming through here into the main raised bed garden, look at how much this little pollinator area has filled in since I last brought you out here. All full of yarrow and salvias and lavender. There's milkweed in there, just all kinds of wonderful flowering plants for our pollinator friends. So the hummingbirds are always here. Definitely some bees. I can see some bees. I don't know if you can see them here or not, but all over all those plants. In the barrels is some turmeric and ginger. But backing up really quick, check out this artichoke. So we had already enjoyed eating a few artichokes. There's some here, and there's some planted on the back side of kind of like the little seating area there. But I'm gonna let these ones flower for the bees and the pollinators, because you can see the main one is starting to open. If you've never seen an artichoke flower, gosh, they're just so beautiful. They kind of look like a sea anemone. They're just purple and really cool. So yeah, I'm excited just to kind of check those out and let them be beautiful. And coming over this way, there's the fountain, which does admittedly need to be cleaned. It's looking a little green right now, but that's reality. And then the main difference from the last time that I showed you guys around here is we put in this seating area. So these are 2x2 like a smooth or trowel finish concrete pavers, and we did infill with really pretty rocks in between them. They're kind of hard to see in the bright light, but especially once these get wet, they're these really pretty kind of more like multicolored pastel little mini cobbles or whatever you'd call them. But yeah, really beautiful and comfortable, and an enjoyable spot to hang out here and enjoy the garden and the birds and all of the scenery. Right now we have, oh, there's a hummer. I don't know if we'll be able to see him. I'll try to zoom in on him. He's checking out the zinnia there. Anyways, yeah, the bees, and I mean not the bees, the birds love the fountain. They're always here and drinking out of it, hummingbirds included, and trying to bathe in it. And we have little rocks in the very top for the bees, since they like a little bit more of a shallow area. As you can see, the succulents have filled in really nice around the whole base. Those are all just really beautiful and kind of spilling over the edge in some areas. Yeah, so that has been kind of our hot spot out here. And then I have to show you, this is so cute. So one of my best friends from college and still now sent me these really cute, hi Desi, if you're watching, these little like fairy door sets and windows. And we have little resident lizards, the western fence lizards, native lizards here. I've been living under these barrels, and so we set that up as like their little house, and they pop in and out, and we're able to grab and feed them cabbage worms that we find on our plants. So that's like a fun little closed circle of life event over there. And then I guess we'll just kind of go around the beds a little bit, and I can show you what's growing, and yeah, check things out. So Here we actually have a lot of zucchini and squash that are kind of on its last leg. As you can see, like the leaves are a little tattered and stuff. But we've already been harvesting a ton of yellow zucchini, and we have green zucchini over here looking ready to harvest from that bed with flowers all tucked in. A lot of people always ask what the big blue one is, so I'll point that out right away. These are bachelor's buttons, also known as cornflower, and all of the finches have been loving eating the seeds. So as the flower heads die back, they come in and they eat all those seeds. And then the cosmos as well. They've been enjoying and eating a lot of these seeds. So we were deadheading a lot more earlier in the spring to promote more blooms, but now we've just kind of let things go so the birds can come and enjoy all this. So they like that. And we might get a few volunteer flowers here and there, but that's okay. And then here we have a lot of collard greens that are really big and beautiful. Some of them are kind of getting a little munched by those cabbage worms, but that's all good. We have some younger Swiss chard, but our biggest Swiss chard's back there. We'll go over there in a second. But some younger, like a second round of Swiss chard seedlings we had started there. Some beautiful zinnia, especially up close. These are just stunning, stunning flowers. Big beets here, and this bed we had some green beans and stuff tucked in here, and they kind of already came and went. The nasturtiums already got a little sad too. We had some really gorgeous, like over here we had some really gorgeous nasturtiums hanging down, but they're also kind of on their last leg already. But we have some massive beets in here, so I was actually going to grab one anyways for fun with you guys. It's a little bit warm in the afternoon, so the greens are getting a little limp. I don't know if we could see beyond all these leaves, but let's grab this big guy right here just for fun. Oh yeah, look at that. So I think this is Boro beets, the variety. We planted quite a few varieties in here, including Chioggia, those really fun, like bullseye looking ones. But these ones are great because the Boro stay really tender despite getting quite big, so they don't get all tough and woody when they get this nice big size. So that really allows us to kind of like harvest a little bit here and there as needed, rather than feeling the need to take them all at a given time. But yeah, big, big, beautiful beets. I'm gonna set that there and come back for it. And we'll go down the row. We'll go this way. We have cabbages. We already harvested one nice big purple head here, and look at this big green head of cabbage. So that's pretty much ready there. And a few purple ones coming up behind it that are also getting there. Looks like we might have a little aphids inside there, but otherwise doing good. Another green one there. And then a bunch of carrots on this side. You can hear, if you hear the little birds in the background, that's the finches. We have a lot of lesser goldfinches in the yard right now. Really enjoying all those flowers. So these are all carrots. A few of those we've been picking a lot. Kind of same thing with the beets, rather than taking them. Woo, look at that one. Fun. I love harvesting root veggies. Rather than taking them all at once, we'll just kind of come through and pick a few at a time, several a week as needed, and then let the other ones continue to mature. I don't know what variety this is off the top of my head. We grow a lot of the sweet Nantes types, so it might be a Nantes. But yeah, nice one. I'll have to come back and have a little scavenger hunt of all the stuff I pick and set here later. That sunflower is a double teddy sunflower, so we'll take a closer look at that in a second. Here we have a whole bed of watermelon vines with some flowers kind of tucked in. As you see, that's the theme, is we just kind of tuck flowers everywhere. That's both for aesthetics and to enjoy for us, but also for the pollinators and just creating that biodiversity. So watermelon is new to us. We didn't have really enough space in our last garden for sprawling plants like this. I know you can also climb them up a trellis and vine them. This is kind of a petite variety. I think it's called Blacktail Mountain, if I'm remembering correctly. But those just got going a little while ago, so I imagine that'll fill in a lot more. But really excited to have some watermelon for the first time. And then down this way, all this orange, we have marigolds and some petite looking zinnias and a nice big bushy basil in here. That basil, nice. And then there's eggplant on that side and eggplant on this side. The eggplant also was something that in our last climate, so kind of backing up for a moment here to give you some perspective. The ocean is about 6 miles that direction, and our old homestead was only a mile from the ocean, so we had even more coastal influence. Here we still get a lot of evening fog, but it usually burns off a lot quicker in the day. We're about the same zone, but maybe like half a zone different. Last time we were like on 9B to 10A, and now we're firmly in zone 9. And so it's a little bit warmer in this garden too than our last one. And so things like eggplant just did not do well for us in the last garden, and they have just been wonderful this year. There's a bunch on another plant I can show you. Oh, here's a ping tongue long sticking out in here. But the eggplant have just been so great. And so we're trying, melon and some other slightly warmer weather crops that were kind of so-so for us before. So that's been fun and a new experience, I should say, kind of trying different varieties and just kind of seeing what works here for us, because this is all new. Look at this mammoth. True to name and form. I don't know if you can get like any kind of idea of how huge this flower head is, but this flower head was just so beautiful and massive, especially obviously when it was still in bloom. And we're just leaving it here for the birds to eat. You can grill them and eat them yourself. You can eat your own seeds, but you can see how much of that is just cleaned out. So despite the funny angle, the birds will perch up on top of here and then lean down and get those seeds. And they really like that. The jays especially have been going after that. So just bird food at this point. And that's another mammoth sunflower over there. These barrels were all sunflowers, and there's still some zinnias and things in there that have all just really faded. The height of sunflower season already kind of passed for us. I did succession sow a few more, so there's like a few little baby sprouts starting. And there's still obviously quite a few blooms in the garden, but I'd say about a month ago we had like the most profuse sunflower display here. And then this little trellis hanging off the end of the bed over here is cucumber. So that's another one that didn't do as well for us in the past. I think we have there's a couple, I can see some small ones and then one kind of longer one hanging down. We already just harvested a ton of cucumbers last week and made the first batch of refrigerator pickles that we've already been enjoying this week. So tasty. So that's really fun to have that. Delicious and homegrown. Oh, there's a kind of bigger one there. Kind of curled up here, but got some nice cukes. And kale. So that's dazzling blue lacinato kale, or the big dark pretty leaves with like the purple veins. A little bit munched. Some of this has been here for quite a while. Still looking pretty good. And then any of the munch stuff we also just give to the chickens, which they always appreciate. So all good. And then this is some Madeley kale, another variety of kale, some calendula. Moving back into the middle here. Here's this gorgeous double teddy sunflower. Look at those faces, they're so pretty. And though I usually do say grow sunflowers that have pollen, because the bees love the pollen. Like you'll see them, they'll be all over that one over there, because the bees love the pollen. But and this is like one of the varieties that doesn't have as much, or a little to none, but it does have seeds at least, so you can see the birds are still enjoying it, and it's just so beautiful. So I think we have plenty of other food for the bees. I wouldn't recommend growing all pollenless sunflowers though, because you want to have some pollen around. But yeah, that's just a beautiful one. Some more eggplant, zinnia, more eggplant. There's quite a few. Let me see if I can see some of this fruit. These are piccolo eggplant, and they're like, if you can see them under there, they're like a little egg shape. They're really, really kind of a fun one. And then these are little finger eggplant, and these are actually supposed to be harvested about this size, so we've been picking quite a few of them, and there's just still so many on the plant. So made a veggie lasagna this weekend to use up like eggplant and carrot and zucchini and basil and some of our homegrown tomato sauce. So there's a good view of all those ones. Look at all of them down there. Nice, very pretty. And there's that collard again. And then over here is the jungle of Swiss chard. Swiss chard likes this new garden and climate, let me tell you. So we've always grown decent Swiss chard, but this particular variety, if you can see, let me get closer in here. Look at these gorgeous stems. So this is peppermint Swiss chard. Tastes like regular chard, despite the name, doesn't taste like peppermint, but it just gets so big and it doesn't bolt for us. I mean, granted, we're not as hot of a climate as a lot of places in the summertime, but we have grown it for many, many months without it bolting. And then this is a gold type. I don't remember the variety exactly off the top of my head, but I mean, you can listen to that too. I love the sound of all the greens. Can't even give you the full perspective of just how dense and luscious all this chard is in here. So that has been a fun one. And really, I mean, knock on wood, I'm gonna knock on the bed here. We haven't had a lot of leaf miner action. We've had a little bit on our beet greens, but not as much on our chard as we would normally see. So that's been a really pleasant surprise. Some celery going on back here. Look at that. Starting to fill in like a nice little celery jungle. So that's just kind of tucked in here between. There was some dill. It's already going to seed, but we put that in the pickles, use these dill heads in the pickles we made last weekend, which is awesome. And then these ones are just full-blown going to seed. So we can do some seed saving there. Hi, Bee. They like the bachelor's buttons too. And then backing up this way, check out this specimen. So I think this was starting to flower on my last tour, but this agave that's now looking pretty sad as far as the plant portion goes, we've had for, oh gosh, almost, I would say at least a decade, and moved with it. And then as soon as we moved, it started to flower. And these are one of the types that, you know, they flower once, and then that's kind of like their grand finale. They flower and then they die. And so it'll produce pups if it can in that tight pot. But it took months. Like, this thing has been slowly growing this giant stalk, and someone kind of teased the other day and they were like, you know, that flower is a little anticlimactic for how long that thing was in bloom, but it is pretty cool. And the other fun thing is, I'm reaching way over my head, it's like very tall. The hummingbirds have been feeding off it, so that's been really fun. I've got some neat shots of them kind of like, you know, with the blue sky in the background, eating off of that. So speaking of birds, and looking this way towards our neighbor's very wild but wonderful property over here, this is just a 10-acre parcel behind us that's largely undeveloped. He does have a shop kind of like on the far end. And again, our area was all dirt before, but it didn't have like native shrub like that. It was just, you know, dead. But the quail, so we have California quail, and they've been nesting in some of this like shrubbery over here, and like the downed brush, and then they come into our garden to hang out and feed, and they'll go under the grapes and into the orchard, and they're like up in the cannabis plants and picking around. The adults, once they're larger, have been getting into our garden beds a little bit, but they don't really eat the vegetation, so that's nice. They're mostly picking at insects and seeds and things. But there are like 20 baby, tiny puffball California quail right now, and it has just been such a joy to see them running back and forth along this fence line and into our garden and in our shrubs. And I know once more of our border here fills out even more, they'll feel even more comfortable around here. So I have some plans for our farther kind of open field beyond the orchard on that side. We'll walk over there in a minute, but it is going to be some quail-inspired quail habitat plans. Because yeah, I just have been I was always a little bit of a bird nerd, but being on this property has made me even more of a bird nerd. Between all of the little birds and the hawks and the owls and then the quail now, it's such a joy to be out there with them. Anyways, so coming back around here, we have some more artichokes, and we have all these cute little mushrooms in all the beds, just decor. And that's marigolds and more cosmos. And up the trellis, we do have some cucamelons finally making their way up. That's what these little skinny vines are here. They're cucamelons, so if you're unfamiliar, they're like a tiny little, they're a cucumber, but they look like a mini watermelon, hence the name. Oh, here's a tiny one just developing. So we moved with the tubers. You can dig up the tubers and transplant them. So we took them out of our old garden and then moved them here, and they kind of had a slow start getting going again. But yeah, so maybe in the next couple months, this should be nice and full of all those little cucamelons. More artichoke here. I think we will harvest these couple soon for us to eat, because they're just starting to loosen. You want to take artichokes when they're still pretty firm before they, you know, open up. So I think we'll take these two to eat, but then I think we'll leave the littler ones to flower. And this gorgeous thing, here, let me go around here. I hear little birds. So I was looking at my seed varieties, and this is either, I think it's an evening colors or an evening, what is it called? There's an autumn surprise and an evening colors, I think, are like the two that we planted. We planted so many different varieties of sunflowers. I was trying to remember what is what, and then we just kind of put them all over the garden without tags. But yeah, I think that's either evening surprise or autumn colors, something like that. There's two that look similar like that. And then we have chamomile like crazy. This highbee we've been harvesting so much from, like just popping the little flower tops off, I'd say every few days, and it just keeps coming back. So I'm drying most of it to use in tea, but I also am going to be steeping in oil and making like a really nice luscious face oil with calendula and rose hips and chamomile. That's like on my to-do list. All right, and then this side of the garden, coming through here, the little orange puffballs are tangerine gem marigolds. In these cages here are determinate tomatoes, so you know, the more bush style tomatoes that you wouldn't really prune much and just kind of let them do their thing in a cage. So they're happy and growing along, and you can see we're getting fruit all the way at the top right now, and we've already had some ripe fruit down at the bottom. Another little happy basil tucked in there. And then over here, onions are coming along beautifully. Look at how big this one is. This is a Walla Walla, so it's getting really nice and large. Oh yeah, I didn't really show you the leeks. They're coming along too. They're on the other side of, if you can see them in front of the chard there. Those are the leeks. So yeah, onions, gonna have a big onion harvest. There's a few different varieties mixed in here, so I'm hoping that they'll kind of like mature at different times. I can already see that like this half is starting to get more brown on the leaves than this group over here. So I'm guessing, you know, we'll probably harvest those, and then we'll be able to leave those a little longer to not have so much at once. Up this are pole beans, and some of my favorite type of pole beans are these Romano. Look how long these are. Romano pole beans. There's a couple different varieties. We've grown Musica in the past, and these are Northeaster or Nor'easter, I think Northeaster, but they are like these long, flat beans, but they stay super tender even when they get really long, and they're just delicious. Like, we like to munch on them raw even. And cooked, obviously, but yeah, so those beans are just kind of getting started. So I imagine they're gonna continue to fill up the top of this trellis over the next little while. And then coming through the archway here, the zinnias are definitely trying to steal the show. So I don't recall the exact variety, but we grow a lot of Benary's giant zinnias. So this is probably like the red, or you know, some name they might call it, like coral or something like that, of the Benary's giant zinnias. We have a few of those in here, but just big, bushy, beautiful. This one's actually a little smaller, but big, bushy, beautiful flowers. And the hummingbirds have been really enjoying them, and I've been really enjoying them. So, and supposedly the Benary's are supposed to be more powdery mildew resistant. So far, again, knock on wood, that hasn't been a problem with them. This sunflower was so beautiful when it was in bloom. I wish you got to see it. It was just all a real yellow one, but all just hanging in this archway, just kind of adding to the effect with all of this, with the zinnia and the bachelor's buttons here. But it has since faded and is bird food, so they're getting after it. And then you're probably wondering what the heck's going on with here. We have some temporary, I'll kind of back up if I can here, temporary trellis system set up for our tomatoes this year. So we're just kind of trying like a new system where we're doing a combination of, they're like semi-pruned. So these are all our indeterminate tomatoes. We are tying with some clips, if I come in here, or just with some soft reusable wire. The main leader of the tomato is going up a stake. So this one will be, you know, stuck like that onto it as it goes up. And then we also have these horizontal bits of twine that are acting as a Florida weave system for the side branches that we are allowing to grow. So as this one grows, like this needs to be tucked up into there once it gets a little bit taller. So then that gets kind of almost like an espalier style, kind of growing them all pretty tight. So we've been removing about, I'd say, half the suckers on those to keep them a little bit pruned up, but not as pruned as you would for just a single stake or a single string method. And so far so good. So we've got a lot of fruit coming along. Most of it's still green. I think there's some Romas down here. Oh yeah, nice clusters of Romas down here. So the bigger ones are still taking their time, and then some of the smaller varieties have already started to ripen. This is a yellow. Oh yeah, that one's ready to go. So that's a yellow variety and it's ripening. And then over on this side, we have a few larger varieties and a few cherry tomatoes as well that we've been already picking off of. You can see all these cherry clusters. Lots of them all over. So all kinds of fruit. And I think this is maybe our green zebra or pink boar, but you can see the stripes on that. To be determined. Will it turn pink or will it stay green? More flowering dill right here. So far we haven't had swallowtails on our dill, which is kind of interesting because they'll fly through the garden on occasion, but they haven't been really stopping to lay eggs, which is a bummer. So I would love to leave this for them to snack on, but we'll use it for pickles and for looks. On the other side of the onions, we have, this is like the biggest calendula plant we've ever grown. It's just one calendula, and it's this giant bush. Since we make calendula salve for our shop, we come out here and pick all of the flowers off it every couple days. It's actually slowing down in production a little bit, but pick all the flowers off, and then it comes right back with like dozens of flowers within a couple days. And some patty pan squash down here. Those are fun. Those are both about ready to pick. I need more hands come around and get all this stuff here. All right, and then heading through here, this is where I was like, dang, I wish I would have shown you an update in spring, because this was magnificent. We had the best snap peas that we have ever grown. Just this huge, I mean, the whole trellis was covered in snap peas. They were so prolific and so delicious. We ate more snap peas than I can even imagine, but I never got tired of them. And so we went ahead and had to clear them though, because they were kind of slowing down in production and getting a little bit of mildew. We're trying to avoid having that, you know, go crazy in our new garden here. So we reseeded pole beans on this side, and then as an experiment, more snap peas on this side. Even though it's summer, it might be a little bit warm for those snap peas. This is kind of like southwest that way, and so I'm hoping that if the beans grow up here, they'll kind of cast some shade and like semi-protect the peas if they come along and decide that they want to hang out. And then over here was a beautiful bed of lettuce. I'll have to find a picture and show you guys, because it was just like, again, I've been really, I don't want to say, oh, the best we've ever grown, but like I've been very pleasantly surprised with how well things have been doing, because you never know with a new garden. You know, you're using new soil, you're in a new climate. Though we're experienced gardeners, we've had a lot of different variables going on with, you know, everything this year. And so, yeah, the lettuce was just wonderful. We had this whole bed full of lettuce, you know, so much that we could eat, shared some with the chickens. But then again, it's time to go. And so we replanted with zucchini. So as I had said, that other round of zucchini over in the far bed on the other side of the fountain there is kind of on its last leg. We started that in March, I think, or I can't remember, and because zucchini come and go pretty quickly, it was time for another round of that. Some basil on the other side of and marigolds, good companion plants for tomatoes. So that's what's tucked in there with them. Some more fade-in sunflowers getting eaten by the birds. This is our butternut squash bed, and it is just 2 vines, plus there is one other kind of smaller, like a sugar dumpling type winter squash in there. But very pleasantly surprised and happy with how the butternut's doing. We have a few little, where's the little squashies? Have a few little squashies developing. So there's one there, and there's quite a few of them in here. They're kind of a smaller variety too, a little personal size squash. And these beds look a little empty because they, again, had spring stuff that we've since cleared. So in this bed was all radishes with the peas on the one side. Radishes came and went, and so we have some melons going there. They're kind of hanging in. We had a really weird spring too with like, we had heat waves and then freezing and then heat waves and then freezing. It was a really unpredictable for a couple months there. So some stuff got a little pissy with us, including like we had some pumpkins here that just didn't really do a whole lot. So right now, these are just kind of waiting to get replanted with something. I might do another round of maybe radish or something soon, but these are like a sugar dumpling, hard squash. So those are cute. And then out this way, kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. There's a cherry tomato, some more turmeric, and then another little sunflower. And then in the grow bags in the back, besides the cannabis there, and these are really funny, by the way. These are like little CBD hemp autoflower plants, and they're just like little purple pistils. But these are all of the potatoes that are in these grow bags. And I think we need to add a little bit more soil and top them off soon. We've already done that a few times in the grow bags, kind of like hilling them inside the bags. So yeah, we should have quite a few potatoes. Have those hooked up to a little simple drip system connected to a hose bib over there. If you guys saw my tutorials about that, so that's nice. We can just run all those potato grow bags just by turning on the faucet for a little bit. And then out here, this is just go for a world basically, but we do have a couple little fun things, so I'll just show you really quick over here. This is that border we put in. One of the first areas we landscaped was this far edge because we wanted shrubs to start growing in and some of the fruit trees to start growing in. So we have fig and pomegranate and a dwarf weeping mulberry and another pomegranate and some feijoa or pineapple guava and bay laurel, some citrus. So yeah, a few little things plus some flowers. But I've been excited about, first of all, the flowers are just beautiful. Those are all the pomegranate flowers, but we have a few fruit. So quite a few little pomegranates on this bush, or tree, or whatever you want to call it. So that should be a nice little treat. I think we might have probably about a dozen of them once that all matures. And heading back this way, view of the garden from down here. I have been really happy with how, there's another Hummer in there, how nice this whole border has really filled in all the way down. These are moonshine yarrow, and they've just grown bigger than ever too. It's like, there's definitely certain things about this climate that some plants just like better than our last one. I've never had them get that big, and we've grown yarrow for years, so that's fun. Hummingbirds on the calendula in there. All right, then coming back through here, more of those bachelor buttons. I think I pretty much pointed out everything in the main garden. Always feel free to ask questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to try to add links to things that I mention, you know, that I have links for. As far as tutorials and stuff, I'll put those, you know, in the caption as well. We'll come wander over this way. So this is a pretty significant change since we did a little tour with you guys. We had an existing middle orchard area here, but it was in desperate need of remulching. And then we had just a few leftover pavers from that center patio area. So we connected with a nice little pathway and we remulched. We brought in, I think it was like 20 yards of new mulch for this whole space, and it just made it pop. Everything looked so much happier. It was in desperate need. Put a couple little more substantial chairs out here and some little pots and a bird bath, and definitely makes it a whole different little space. The grapes are not yet ripe, but coming, and there are a lot of them. I mean, there's some big, beautiful grapes basically hanging all down the fence line in here, everywhere you look. So we're gonna have to get clever with ways to preserve and use all these grapes. I have some more CBD plants in here. kind of mixed in these wine barrels. Oh, and then check out, I'm so excited about these agave. In these, we have 2 of them here, kind of backing up, flanking either side of this seating area. They are Queen Victoria agave, and maybe I'll find a picture and put it on the screen here so you can see. They turn into these really cool, very round, but not as spiky as some agave, but very round, neat little orbs. And it's just gonna look really neat once that grows in. I feel like I can almost hear the quail. They'll always be running in here, but I doubt they'll pop out for us when I'm out here yapping. So they're pretty shy, and they're fast and tiny. Apricots. So many apricots. We picked the first ripe one yesterday. It was so tasty. The birds are starting to do their little bit of sampling, where they're kind of also checking out, ooh, are these ripe yet? But we have so much. I think we're gonna be fine. And I'm just gonna come out here and I might even pick a couple tiny bit premature and just let them ripen on the counter so they don't get to all of them. But yeah, just lots of cats. And we also, let's see, what's changed since the last time? You guys saw the fig tree. Oh, we put in, backing up to the front here, we put in a new nectarine and peach up at the front here, and then added a new, in the very back corner, a plum tree, and then a couple new apple trees. There were apple trees here, but they weren't the right varieties for our climate. They required 2 mini chill hours for this area. It was like a Red Delicious and a Granny Smith, so we did a Anna apple and a Fuji apple, which are more suited for this climate and, to be honest, a little bit more tasty of fruit. We have some white peaches here, also same story, getting sampled by the birds, but I think I might start to pick a couple of them. Lot less to spare here than the apricot as far as sharing with the birds. If you can see all that fruit on that apricot. And then over this way, little calendula farm area. So we have calendula in these terracotta pots, and I'll walk out over this way in a second, but all of our calendula plants for salve making. Lemon guavas. We added some blueberries too. So some of these bushes along the orchard fence line are blueberries. So that will be wonderful when those fill in. One of our new little apple trees here. Yeah, fig. So that's kind of what's going on in the orchard. Again, just remulching was a big just improvement. Oh, I love peeking over at the garden from here. Look at the big droopy sunflower. Take a peek this way. Hello. Yeah, when that guy was blooming, it was pretty funny to peek over and see it. Like I said, just grapes everywhere. That is getting close to the end of our tour. I think we'll go wander into the main center area. I don't think we've changed a whole lot. And then coming in here, most of it's pretty much the same. We've added a few little plantings. I'm not sure if they were here along the pathway. And then the beds that we kind of converted to more perennial beds have just really filled in. So this became an herb bed. The oregano is basically all in flower right now. But there's also some thyme, which is also in flower right now, but we can cut all those back and they'll just keep coming back for us. This tall one is the lemon verbena. We got some dill, some really pretty sages, more sage. So those are really full. And then the blueberries and strawberries in this bed, we've been munching on quite a bit. If you haven't grown alpine strawberries, I highly recommend them. They're like so fragile. They have basically no shelf life, and so they're not as commonly grown, but they're so sweet. So they're just like garden candy. We just come out here and snack on the alpine strawberries. And then we just end up kind of back around, compost pile, and back to the garden. So that's that.
And that's what's going on in the garden today. So thanks so much for wandering around with me. I really appreciate your company. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing to follow along and check out our other videos. And if you liked this garden tour, let me know in the comments. Maybe I need to do them a little bit more often since the garden is always changing and evolving. Maybe I'll try to share garden updates once every month or two rather than once a quarter, so we can really capture the essence of the season and what's going on out here. But otherwise, thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.